Hey YouTube, Repo Man 64. I wanted to take some time. Let me see if I can do this real quick. All right, let me enlarge that. Hopefully my picture's not in the way. I can't see my picture, so hopefully it's not in the way. All right, I wanted to go over this. Let me hide this. I wanted to go over this real quick with you. I've been working on this timeline. Our beginning of the year is on the equinox, March 17th, over here on the left. That's Nisan 1. When you do a simple count, 182 days, the middle of the year is September 15th, Tishri 1. And what's really cool about that is if you'll remember that Moses changed the head of the year. The head of the year used to be here in September, on September 15th. God told Moses, this now will be the head of the year for you, which is back here at the equinox on March 17th. I'm going to explain all this and show you why I'm thinking this. So if Moses changed the head of the year, that would mean that Noah was on a different timeline. He was on his grandfather's timeline. Was it Enoch? Probably great-grandfather. You have Enoch, Methuselah, Lamech, and then Noah. So it would have been his great-grandfather. Methuselah, over here, right here, dies. Methuselah asks not to be counted with the wicked and to be buried, dead and buried, before the flood begins. Anytime they died back in those days, you had 7 days of mourning. The flood should have began on October 24th, but nothing's far from God. Everything has to make sense, and every timeline has to add up. So, Tisha B'Av, this is the day that they went into the grave. Flood begins. This is the day that they went into the grave. They all failed. But over here, Jesus, this is the day Jesus came out of the grave because he won. If you count from when the flood began on October 31st, which is, again, he's on a different timeline. He is on the Enoch timeline. This is the timeline that Enoch gave to his son, Methuselah, who outlived everyone at 969 years, died 7 days before the flood started, would have handed it down to his grandson, Noah, who took it on the ark with him. And Noah would have been on this timeline. His beginning of the year would have been September 15th. September 15th is Rosh Hashanah, the Feast of Trumpets. If you count from the Feast of Trumpets and call it the head of the year, and you count 40 days, that's the day that Methuselah was buried. 7 days later, 7 days of mourning, the flood began. They go into the grave. If you count from that point forward, you have 153 days all the way up to this point right here, which is where Jesus defeated the grave, rose out, busted out of the grave, and won against death right here. 153 days later. I just continued the calendar because I don't have the entire calendar. I'm missing the 11th and 12th month just because there was nothing going on in those months. So just like here, not a lot going on here in the 4th and 5th month, not a lot going on in the 11th and 12th month. So I thought it was cool. You go 40 days, 7 days for mourning Methuselah, and the flood begins and you go 40 days. So you have 40, 7, and 40. And I put the 40 down here because I made a mistake up here. But another cool thing is the entire time of the Passion of Christ, all of it, all the way up to Pentecost, was 53 days long. From the cross to Pentecost, Jesus went to the cross. 3 days later, he resurrected. 7 days later, he appeared in the upper room to Thomas, where Thomas was allowed to touch him. No one can touch him until this moment in time. 40 days later, which I should have put a 40 there, but it's 47 days from April 1st when he resurrected. 40 days later, he rises in front of everybody. And then 3 days later, the Comforter is sent, Holy Spirit. That adds up to 53 days. 53 days here, Jesus succeeds. 100 days here, mankind fails. 153 days in total. So you have 153 days on this side, and then you have 153 days on this side, which I thought was cool because of the 153 fish. The reason I think I'm onto something is because the numbers are lining up, and it's really blowing my mind as I go through this. The 182nd day of the year, Rosh Hashanah, Feast of Trumpets, is on Tishri 1, which is the 7th month and the first day. When you read the Bible, and I've read, and I've asked 100 people, can you please show me where it says it has anything to do with the sliver of the moon? I put this up here for quite a while so you guys can screenshot this. The full equilux is on September the 25th. There's 10 days right there. There's silence in heaven for a period of time. Is this the silence in heaven? There were 100 days from this point to this point, but there were 70 days, and that's why I thought August 22nd was important, because it was the full moon, and it was 70 days to the flood when it began on October the 31st. I've asked and asked and asked, can anybody prove to me that the new moon or the full moon has anything to do with the 7th month and the first day? You would think, I mean, we have a calendar. Does it jumble around based on a moon? I don't think God's calendar did either. I think it stayed pretty solid. Hopefully I'm still here. Looks like I am. All right. Let's look at some pictures right here. Down here it explains that on the 30th day of the 12th month, 3 stars were present in Pegasus. This happens every single year on March 16th. This is the final Sabbath of the year. This happens in Stellarium, where 4 stars of the constellation Pegasus, forming a square, appear just before sunrise in the eastern horizon, and the 4th star is called Algenum, and it appears to flicker as it moves along the horizon, signaling the last day of the year, the spring equinox. It says equinox, but it actually falls on the equilux, which is the 17th. All right, so we're going to go on here. This is what it looks like in Stellarium. It is the equilux. This is the Sabbath, the last day of the year. How do you work that out when there's 364 days in Enoch calendar and we have 365 and a quarter days? It's simple. When God stopped time for that war to happen, it is called a day out of time. It is called a day that no man knows. No man can figure it out. When Jesus referenced in the Bible, it is the day that no man knows the day or the hour. I don't think they were talking about the moon. I really don't. I believe they were talking about that one day that exists for 48 hours, that one day that God stretched time, that one day that happens every single year. And I thought perhaps it happened on March 15th, and then on the 16th was the last Sabbath, and then the year begins again on the 17th. But then I got to studying and looking, and I believe that that happened over here. The day at a time, I believe, happened right around 7/1 or 6/30. It would be 6/31 actually, because there's 31 days. There is a day at a time in here somewhere. The day at a time is a 48-hour day period. That's why when we get to this date, we don't know exactly when that day is. All right, let's keep going. I found this little jewel on the internet, and This thing's helped me out quite a bit to line up our calendar with their calendar. I want you to notice that here in March, what would be the end of March would land right in the middle of Nisan. So Nisan 1 would be back here on March 17th. You come around here, same thing. You have September, you have the end of August, you come over to here, beginning of September, you come over here, you have September the 15th. And what do you have down here? The beginning of Tishri 1. I've been putting a lot of this stuff together and I've been trying to figure it out. This is a comment made in the Legend of the Jews. It says, partly they persisted in their adurancy of heart because Noah had made known to them that the flood would not descend as long as the pious Methuselah sojourned among them. He respected his great-grandfather. Grandfather. The period of 120 years, which God had appointed as the term of their probation, which means God set it on a particular date. He set it on a date, and he said, this is 120 years. What happened when they got to that date was Methuselah was still alive. God had appointed as the term of their probation having expired. It expired. The flood was supposed to happen. Let me go back to the timeline here. Oops, wrong one. The flood was supposed to happen right here. Right here. This is when Methuselah died. It was supposed to begin on October the 24th. That was the exactly 120 years from when God spoke it, that 120 years from today's date, there will be a flood. But also God knew that 7 days would be given to Methuselah out of respect for him. All right. Methuselah died, but out of regard for the memory of this pious man, God gave them another week's respite, the week of mourning for him. During this time of grace, the laws of nature were suspended. It says the sun rose in the west and set in the east to the sinners of God, and then I don't see what was after that. But at any rate, that was the 7 days. That's why it exists. That's why it's there. God said, as in the days of Noah, and we've been trying to figure out what he meant by as in the days of Noah. We've understood this, We've understood that they're going to be laughing. What's going to be happening nowadays when we're saying this is going to happen? They're going to be laughing at us. They're going to constantly go up against us. Now, all these people out here are facing death and they don't even know it. They're going to respond the same way today as they responded back then. And Noah is up here trying to warn them, but they won't listen. They're not going to listen. I did the math again from October 31st, Halloween. You go to when Jesus rose from the cross, when he conquered death, when he rose from the grave, when he conquered death, that was April the 1st, 153 days. Oh, this is something I downloaded. If you believe that you can lose your salvation, it is because in some way you believe that your salvation depends on you, which we know that's not true. All right, so why am I saying we're not to look at the moon? The book of Jubilees and the book of Jasher and Enoch are spoken of in our Bible. Our Bible is everything we need. God said, he said it as clear as a bell, that Feast of Trumpets, Rosh Hashanah, will happen on the first day of the 7th month. He said it. The problem is we don't know when that is. We're trying to figure it out. We're looking at moons and everything else. And I found this. This is out of the book of Jubilees. And all the children of Israel will forget and will not find the path of the years, and will forget the months and seasons and Sabbaths, and they will go wrong as to the order of the years. For I know, and from henceforth will I declare it unto thee, and it is not of my own devising, for the book written before me and on the heavenly tablets, the division of the days is ordained, lest they forget the feasts and the covenant, and walk according to the feasts of the Gentiles after their error and after their ignorance. For there will be those who will assuredly make observations of the moon, how it disturbs the seasons and comes in from year to year 10 days too soon. For this reason the years will come upon them when they will disturb and make an abominable day, the day of testimony, and an unclean day, a feast day. This is not making God very happy at all that this is happening. These Jews were forced by the Romans to observe the moon. And a lot of them were put to death over that issue as well. And not to observe the moon. Let's see here. Okay, I'll click on that, and we're still going. I hope I haven't been blocking everything. I don't know how to fix that. I wanted to point out a couple of verses to you. To what purpose cometh there to me incense from Sheba and sweet corn from a far country? Your burnt offerings are not acceptable, nor your sacrifices sweet unto me. Why? I hate and despise, that's a fly. I hate and despise your feast days. I will not smell in your solemn assemblies, and I will not smell in your solemn assemblies. Why? Why? Because your new moons and your appointed feast my soul hateth. They are a trouble unto me. I am weary to bear them. God is upset that they followed the Romans and they began looking at that moon. They were not supposed to look at that moon as the beginning of anything. I can't find anywhere in the Bible, and I've been asking and I've been searching and I've been Googling. There are Jewish traditions where, let me see, where am I at? I'm in here somewhere. I don't know where I'm at. Oh, maybe I'm here. No, maybe I'm here. Oh, there I am. There are Jewish traditions which they have been following for a while now. And why would God change every year based on a moon? Why would he change the date? Even the Gregorian calendar doesn't change. We know when New Year's Day is. We know when all these things come into play. Why are we allowing, and it says that these are Gentile ideals, which it's true. If you study back, when did they start following the moon as the new year, or even for anything? For the new year, it was the Romans that decreed that forced them to do it. And if they didn't, they were actually killed for it. And a lot of Jews wouldn't do it. They said no. And I know that it's true because the Jews are still looking at September as their new year. Now they're jumbling it up every year. They've got a different date. It jumbles around September, October. It goes back and forth, and they're following that moon. They're doing it because they were forced to by the Romans. But I know that it's the head of the year that it used to be, because they still will call this September the 7th and 8th. They will still call it 5782. I think they're wrong. I think it's, and I put 14 because that's the last, the 15th would actually be Rosh Hashanah. So it's either the 14th or the 15th or 16th. We don't know because there's a day in there that equals 48 hours. We really don't know. I think when Jesus was saying that, and that's another thing I would ask anybody, and I'm open-minded. I want to know the truth myself. Can somebody point me to a passage that says Jesus said to look at the moon, and that's how you'll know that that comment he made, which was a Jewish idiom, that nobody knows the day or the hour has anything to do with a sliver of the moon. Not a Jewish custom, not a Jewish tradition. Actually written in the Bible, it says on this day with the first sliver, that's how you know it will be Rosh Hashanah. There are feast days now. I'm not denying that the moon explains when these feast days are. That's true. But show me where it says it has anything to do with the Feast of Trumpets. The Feast of Trumpets, I think they're saying, is the biggest rapture day of the year because the last trump will sound. But we don't know exactly yet. We don't know the exact time. And I think that's what Jesus, and I pray that that's correct. And I've been studying and I can't think of anything else. But I think when Jesus said that in Matthew, that is a day that nobody knows, I think the Jews knew that it was the day at a time. Not that it had anything to do with the moon. I think it was that day at a time, which I think happened September 14th, which lasted 48 hours. September 14th is a 48-hour day, or 15th, one of those days. But that's when that 48-hour period, which we don't know exactly. I think it's in September. I believe that's where it would fall. And then the beginning of their year for Noah, before Moses changed the calendar to the head of the year to March 17th, I believe that that was right there, September 14th. Anyway, I wanted to get on here. I wanted to show you this timeline. And hopefully, I've been sending it to anybody who'd want to see it. Hopefully, this is correct. I hope this is correct. If this is truly or is truly Tishri 1, September 15th, the Feast of Trumpets, the 182nd day of the year, 182 days away from the beginning of the year, Rosh Hashanah, Feast of Trumpets. If that's true, then it does line up perfectly with the 40 days to Methuselah, 7 days to respect Methuselah, and 40 days of the flood. And it just lines up too perfectly. And if I'm correct about this 7th month and first day, like the Bible tells us, it doesn't say anything about a moon. It says the 7th month and first day, which to me and what I add up in Enoch lines up right here. If you go forward to the 2nd month and the 17th day, lands perfectly on October 31st, right there. And then if you go from October 31st and you go forward 153 days, you land right over here. Jesus busts the grave wide open, like Watchman Adams says. He busted the grave wide open, and he conquered death, and he rose on this day, right here, on April the 1st, April Fool's Day. Jesus went to the cross in the 1st month and the 14th day. In the 1st month and the 17th day, he rose. I didn't put the things down here, but that is when he rose, right there, March 30th, which would have been Nisan 14, Nisan 17. That's exactly what the Bible says, 14 and 17. The 1st month and the 14th day, and then the 1st month and the 17th day he rose. And you come over here, in the 2nd month and the 17th day. You got the 2nd month and the 17th day here, and you got the 1st month and the 17th day here, which is matching up perfectly, absolutely perfectly. So anyway, Repo Man 64, I sure would like some input on a lot of this and help trying to figure this out. That would be fantastic. Hopefully I'm onto something here. I've been working on this timeline for quite some time, and I really think I'm onto something here. And I've been working on this and praying about this, and it just lines up. It just makes sense to me. It just makes sense that the head of the year for Noah was in Tishri 1, September the 15th, and that is the Feast of Trumpets, the beginning of the year, the end of the year, and they're still doing it to this day. They're just off by a week this year. So anyway, go to a quiet place by yourself. It's more important than any of this that we're trying to figure out. I'm not saying the rapture is going to happen on the Feast of Trumpets, but man, it sure does look like it. It sure does line up. It's crazy. So I know I'll be watching. I'll be watching that Amos 3:7, 3 days before, 7 days before. I'm thinking that's what Amos 3:7 has a little hidden meaning in there. We'll be told 3 days before, 7 days before. I think we're going to get 2 warnings that it's about to happen, and I think it's probably the most exciting. We're down here, and it's like the bride. The bride's in the room, and she's dressed, and she's excited, but she doesn't know. But when Jesus is told, "Go get your bride," his heart. I mean, just imagine. The emotions that we have come from God. The happiness, the anger, the sorrow, the joy, the uncontrollable joy that you have that you just like beside yourself with happiness sometimes. It happens. When I was younger, it happened all the time. I guess when you get older, you get kind of salty, but, but imagine Jesus being told that, and he's just like, oh, yeah, the time it takes for Jesus to get down here. I mean, he's God. I suppose he could come down instantly, but maybe he's going to give a 3 to 7 day warning. I don't know. I just imagine the joy. We're looking forward to something that we don't know, but he's there. He built it for us, and he knows us better than we know ourselves. And he's got this beautiful prize waiting for us on the other side. And we're just like, we don't have a clue. Our imaginations don't have a clue as to what. And Jesus is like, I'm going to give him a present. And he's all excited. I know he is, because that's where we get this from. Our DNA, we were created by God. God said, let us go make man in our image. He created our DNA like that. We're excited. We can hardly wait. And I don't know about you, but I know he's excited. Because we're going to be changed and made perfect in every way. And I know he's excited, just waiting on that day to come. So anyway, Repo Man 64, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will put a link for the Discord if you want to come in. This timeline is under my window in there, and we can talk about it. And maybe you can tell me I'm completely wrong. Just when you tell me I'm wrong, and people do it all the time. No, you're completely wrong. You're an idiot. Can you give me a Bible verse? Just give me a Bible verse. Throw me a bone. I'm an idiot. That's fine. But throw me a bone and show me somewhere, anywhere in the Bible where it says that the day at a time that Jesus was referring to the sliver of the new moon, and they didn't know because it might have been cloudy. And it refers to the Feast of Trumpets. And if you can give me that, I will throw all this stuff in the garbage and give up on it. But it's been weighing on me for quite some time. Anyway, Repo Man 64. Go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know. You don't need to tell anybody. And ask the Lord to come into your heart. Go in there, broken. Nothing you have to offer. And I'll see you guys later.